David Stockman was head of the Office of Management and Budget under Ronald Reagan. He joins us now live here in New York. David, great to see you.
Good afternoon.
You are someone who is intimately involved with budget. You know the way this works in Washington. Is a government shutdown going to harm the economy? Good, because we're hearing from people who say, yes, it will. It's a risk we don't need. And other people who are saying it's being exaggerated.
Well, the Beltway chorus of Chicken Littles is clacking, louder by the hour that the sky is falling. But I don't really buy that. I've been through a half dozen of these. It's really not going to amount to much if we have a shutdown for a few days or even a week. The reason for it is that huge parts of the federal government are deemed essential services. We have 3.5 million people on the federal payroll, including the armed services. 2.8 million, 80%, will go to work tomorrow morning and Wednesday morning, whether we have a continuing resolution or a compromise or not. Anything in law enforcement, anything having to do with border control.
All the stuff that really matters to us is going to be in place. All the stuff that matters is
going to go on, and here's the issue. To have the national parks closed for a couple of days, or the Washington Monument closed, which is already closed, by the way, for repairs, is a small price to pay for trying to get this monster budget under control that's broken.
I think the thing people are concerned about, though, is that it's just a sign of the fact that this is, a set of lawmakers and a president who cannot compromise or strike a deal on anything. We're coming up to the debt ceiling, which certainly investors take more seriously. Isn't that the worry, that they're taking risks that they don't need to be taking with an economy who may have survived a shutdown before, but still feels like it's very fragile coming out of the global financial crisis?
Well, but this paralysis is the new normal. It's going to go on.
Should it be the new normal?
It's unavoidable because we're unwilling to face fiscal reality. We're unwilling to make big, tough choices, reform entitlements, means test Social Security.
Who is unwilling? Collectively, both parties.
Both parties. And so the point here is that the machinery is broken. We have not had a budget in years. They never pass appropriations bills. The entitlement mandatory spending system is $2.5 trillion. It goes on automatic pilot, whether they have these, confrontations at the 11th hour or not. So what I think has happened is that the few remaining people in Congress who were worried about the middle and long-term fiscal future, who see the massive red ink we have already, and then Obamacare is going to add massive more spending on top of that. I think it's going to be a disaster. They're concerned enough that they're going to take hostage the CR or the debt ceiling or whatever is available to force Congress and force the White House to face the issues. And that's the only choice we have.
There's got to be a better way, though. There's got to be a better way. And what you see happening is a lot of the people who are concerned about that, who maybe aren't on the extremes of the party, are leaving Congress. Isn't that what happens? Is that the people who can't agree are left, and the people who actually want to get a deal done, who want to address the fiscal situation, are leaving in droves? Is that a good way for the U.S. to conduct its fiscal policy?
No, I think our fiscal machinery is totally broken. What's happening is utterly irresponsible. But the leadership...
How do we fix it? How do we get past this point where we don't play out this scenario
You know
over
how
and
we
over
fix
again?
it? We're going to have a thundering crisis. We're going to have debt ceiling crises. We're going to have CR crises. We're going to have multi-thousand-point market meltdowns before the dreamwalkers in the Beltway down there wake up and realize they have to deal with reality and not continue to kick the can.
I certainly hope that that's not the case. For all the ordinary people out there who are still suffering, that we don't have to face a crisis like that, for people to come to their senses. What would you say, if you could go in there to try to broker a deal, what would you say that we can do in the near term? Are investors prepared for this? Should they be worried that this is that crisis that you were just talking about?
Yeah, I think they should be very worried, because this isn't going to go away Wednesday, even if they pass a one-week patch or an extension. This is going to be the permanent condition. It'll flare up every few months or so once we get from one crisis to the next. So investors should be scared about where this country is going. The markets are totally artificial. They're propped up by the Fed. If the Fed weren't flooding the market with zero interest rate money today, the markets would be far lower.
I'm going to get under the table and just hide under the table talking to you.
It's true. The Fed, and then Bernanke has the nerve to say, well, I didn't taper because of the fiscal situation. The reason we're in this shutdown crisis, the reason that Congress can't make any tough choices is he's giving them 0% money, zero financing on the massive Treasury debt, and therefore they think it's free or that they can kick the can for another year or two.
Let me ask you, David, in closing, if this plays out the way you fear it does, and investors have been put on warning, and we start to see the markets crumble, and that's what Washington is going to pay attention to, is there anyone in Washington who can provide leadership and find us a way out of this mess?
Yes, I think all of them can when they're finally confronted by fear, when they're finally seized by fear. Then this sanctimonious man in the White House may go up to Capitol Hill and say, we've got to negotiate, we've got to make some tough choices, here's what I'm willing to put on the table. Then the Republicans will have to put up or shut up and be willing to go for more taxes as well as spending reform, entitlement reform, and drastic cutbacks in defense. But until there's a crisis, until they are really seized by fear, the people who run the Congress and the incumbent in the White House, I believe, will simply point the finger at the other side and hope they can get by for another month or two. This is not a way to run a government. It's a sad state of affairs, but unfortunately, that's where I think we are.